Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Let's welcome today's speaker, Adrienne.
Good morning. I'm Adrienne. I'm an alcoholic. Hi. It's quite a meeting before the meeting. Feels like I've never been here before, and it's very interesting and very nice, and very nice to be excited about sobriety, today. Thank you so much, Lydia, and for asking me to speak. And John, thank you so much as well. And happy birthday to all the birthday people. Congratulations to all the chip takers, and welcome to our first meeting ever person. I can't remember your name, but welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is there you are, hi, welcome. Alcoholics Anonymous, it's the best ticket in town, and it's free, it's saved my life, and it's given me the life that I have today. I'm a little nervous, but I always am just astounded that I get asked to speak at Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and it seems like the last few years I've been getting asked more and more. And I was always the kid growing up that was terrified to get up in front of the class and do the science project. Like, that to me was just horrifying. I did not want to be seen, but then if you didn't see me, I'd wonder why you didn't see me, but then if you saw me and asked me questions, I'd be like this. So it was like the ism started very young for me. So getting up in front of a group of people, I find a little challenging, but hey, that's how we stay sober today. So my stats, I was told very important 3 things that you have when you come into Alcoholics Anonymous is 1, pick a sobriety date. If you don't remember the day you had your last drink or drug, just pick a date after, of course. And have a home group, find a home group, and mine is a Women's White House Stag in Hancock Park on Monday nights. And my sobriety date is January 24th, 1987. I just celebrated 27 years a couple of months ago, and my sponsor, and get a sponsor, and my sponsor's name is Susan D., and she has more time than I do, and she's a female. So I'm real kind of hardcore about that, but whatever works for you, So I got sober when I was 18 years old in New York. So I love the woman that took cake that came in here later in life. It's like, it doesn't matter how old you are when you come in here. If you have this disease, you have this disease, and it does not discriminate whether you're 15 or whether you're 90. It takes what it takes to get here. I'm from New York City, born and raised, and I've lived out here for 14 years, and I still have a 917 number. So there you go. I represent. And I just can't let it go. I don't know why. It's one of my things. And I was an adopted child. So I was adopted as an infant. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. And I was adopted by a very, very loving, non-dysfunctional family. There was no alcoholism in my family. It was very, very loving and supportive and amazing and wonderful. And we grew up in this area in Brooklyn that was completely magical. And it was the 70s, and it was a very different time. It was all blue-collar and middle-class workers and Irish, Italian immigrants. And It was amazing. It was amazing. The elephant in my living room growing up was that when I was 8 years old, My mom was diagnosed with cancer in November, and in March she was dead of cancer. So it was my dad, my brother, and I. My brother was 7 years older than me, so there was a big age difference. And I just remember, being adopted, I felt different. I didn't feel special or chosen like they told me I was. My mom dying, I felt different. And it was just the trickle effect, And I remember the first time I ever had a drink was one of my dad's, he was like, have a glass of scotch. A glass of scotch maybe once or twice a week. He was just like, a social drinker. And I remember the first time I ever had a sip of his scotch. The feeling that scotch felt going down my throat was just pure delight and, numbness. And I knew that I had found the answer, So the first time I got drunk, I was 12 years old. And it was a quart of Southern Comfort, and I had a blackout. It was like I went right from A to Z. There was no in between. I'm an alcoholic. I am bodily and mentally different from my fellows, and I have no gray. Gray area does not work well for me, and it's so funny because I'm in a gray area in my life right now, and I'm very, very uncomfortable, so I found out many years later, being an adopted child, I had sought out my birth parents, and I found my birth mother, and it turned out that my birth father was an alcoholic, and he died of alcoholism in the 80s. So there's the link for me. So it progressed really quickly. I always can summarize my alcoholism in 3 words, and I always say it when I share, and it's dirty, sticky floors. It's just like those 3 words are my alcoholism in a nutshell. I woke up on dirty, sticky floors. I passed out on dirty, sticky floors. I performed sexual acts on dirty, sticky floors. I groveled for rocks on dirty, sticky carpets. I threw up on them, dirty, sticky floors. And then when I got sober in 1987, all of the church basements, everybody was still smoking and drinking lots of coffee, so they were dirty, sticky floors when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, But dirty, sticky floors, my alcoholism, I did a lot of things that a teenager in New York City should not be doing. I was sneaking into the Washington Square Park when I was 13 to smoke pot and cop drugs. I was sneaking back into Brooklyn. It was very progressive. It was 6 years. It was 12 years old to 18 years old. And in those 6 years, I caused a lot of havoc and did a lot of damage. My bottom for me, and I'll just get right to that because there's so many more years to talk about in my recovery than there was using, is the fact that I'm uncomfortable. I'm an uncomfortable human being. I have alcoholism, right? So when I put the drugs and the alcohol in my body, I felt like Superman, I could do anything, and I just checked out. It's like that hole was filled, and you come into alcohol. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. So my bottom for me was I was living at my dad's house with my stepmom, who he married when I was 15. My brother was out of the house, and I would come home every night. I would leave the house at 11 o'clock at night with no money. And I'd say alcoholics are very, very smart people because I would come home at 6 in the morning, completely shit-faced. I had no money, so, figure what I had to do to, who I had to hang out with or whatever I had to do. We're very resilient people. And I had a bag full of drugs and a belly full of booze, and I would be walking up the driveway, and I'd be doing the walk of shame, and he'd be walking down the driveway, getting ready to go into the city to go to work. And I would go into my room and pad the room because I had severe, severe cocaine psychosis. And I would drink whatever 6-pack my dad had in the fridge in the basement, probably like Schlitz, like some cheap 50-cent beer. And then I would go up into my room, and I would have all of this ritual planned out. I would pad the room. I would be peeking out the window every 2 seconds because there was people out there trying to get me. I drank my 6-pack of beer. I would eat pretty much like a couple of Benadryls to try to come down. I'd be chain smoking Marlboro Reds, and I would have a bottle of rubbing alcohol and a film canister and a nail clipper. And I'd be writing out Pink Floyd's lyrics, "Goodbye, cruel world, goodbye, goodbye," on the 8-track, or no, cassette tape. I don't want to date myself that far back, but cassette tape in my room. And, I was 17 at the time, and I was a victim. I was a victim. The world was out to get me. I did not know about alcoholism. I did not know about the disease. I did not know what I had. I didn't know what was wrong with me, I just thought it was the world. And I would have a garbage can in that room because I was too paranoid to leave, and that was my toilet. And I would stay in that room for 2 days, and that was my bathroom, the garbage can by my bed. And then I would proceed to take the rubbing alcohol and pack it in cotton balls up my nose. I don't know why. Don't ask. I still don't know why to this day. But like the logic in an alcoholic's mind when you're drinking, it just seems like a good idea at the time to me, to get me higher. And then I would take the nail clipper and literally spend 2 hours in the mirror digging out the bugs that were crawling under my skin on my arms and my legs and my face. And I have a lot of freckles and beauty marks and that kind of thing, so there was a lot of bugs to get out. And I would collect them. And one morning I decided to go to the ER with that foam canister, and the look on that doctor's face when I went to the ER in the emergency room did not get me sober. I continued the same ritual every night, until the boyfriend I was with at the time said, "You know what, Adrienne, there's this rehab upstate New York. I think you need to go. I think you have a problem. I've been there 3 times. I think it might be a good idea that you go." I was like, okay. And he planted the seed. I don't know why, but he planted the seed, and I went. And I walked in there on my 18th birthday in September of 1987, and they had the 12 steps and the 12 traditions. We don't have them here, but okay. They had the 12 steps and 12 traditions on the wall, and I didn't really get it. I didn't understand it, and I stayed there for 30 days. And, it was a bare bones rehab. It wasn't like the rehabs that there are today, and it was 1987. There wasn't a rehab on every street corner. There wasn't a sober living, and it did not cost what it costs today, by any means. There was people with wet brain. There was people with alcohol poisoning, swollen hands, swollen limbs, cirrhosis of the liver. And I didn't get it. I thought it was the drugs. So I came out and I stayed sober for a few days, and then I thought I can do the drugs without drinking. And then the second I did the drugs, I craved the drink, and then I tried different combinations, and that went on for about 6 months until it kind of all came together, and I had my awakening. I was in an after-hours club in Brooklyn with a couple of firefighters and my boyfriend at the time and a prostitute and myself. And for me, that was my spiritual awakening. I just had that moment of clarity where it was just like, what are you doing? And that was January 24th, 1987, and I haven't had a drink or a drug since. I want to get to the juicy meat of my story. So I came in. It was 1987. I got sober on St. Mark's Place in New York City. It was like a clubhouse back then, and it was magical. I mean, 24/7 meetings, and it was wonderful. We would go to conventions and meetings. And New York sobriety is amazing, but it's very different from Southern California sobriety. They're both amazing. I got sober in New York, but Southern California sobriety rocks. It's like you guys have it really good out here. So it's just excitement, about being sober. So I started going to meetings. I got a sponsor. I did a lot of the things they told me not to do, and I paid for them later. Like getting in relationships, getting involved with people. I always say that you come into Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, I came into Alcoholics Anonymous a liar and a cheat and a thief and promiscuous and all of that stuff. And that stuff did not go away when I put down the drink. It did not. I came in here with a platter full of stuff. And I put down the drink, and that was fine. And the desire was lifted by the grace of God and all of that. But I was still lying, I was still stealing, I was still cheating, I was still being promiscuous, I was still acting out in all of the old behaviors that I was doing when I was drinking. And it wasn't until I started working the steps that those behaviors started to fall away from me and my life started to change. But I will tell you that 27 years in, those behaviors still creep up on me now. They do. And I'll think, oh, I can take that pen from where I'm working. They won't notice. It's just a pen. You know, like, where does that thinking come into play? Like, it's a, you know, like, am I that poor off that I need to steal a pen from where I'm working? You know, so like things do come up. And I'm just giving you a little tidbit. I'm not giving you the real deal because I don't have a lot of time. But I stayed sober for a couple of years, and it was amazing, you know. So, but what I was saying was the promiscuousness was carried with me through early sobriety. Plus, I was 18 years old, you know, and I really, really, really was in that MO that if I have sex with you, you're going to love me, you know. I'm going to get the love I need if I give you what you want, you know. Because I just I have this hole, you know. I have this huge gaping hole that I need to fill. And about 4 years in, all of our friends started to get sick, and people started getting diagnosed with AIDS. And I got a phone call one day from a friend of mine, and she said, this guy you were with is dying of full-blown AIDS. You need to go get an HIV test. So I immediately called my girlfriend because she was in a relationship with him for like 6 months. And I said, you need to go get tested. She's like, well, you were with him too. I was like, yeah, no, it's okay. You need to go get tested. And she convinced me that I needed to go too. And back then, it was 1991. It was very, very on the down low. We took the subway up to 125th Street in Harlem. We were given a code. We were given a number. It was very secretive. And we were told, okay, come back in 2 weeks for your results. So it wasn't like it is today. And those youngins in the room, it was a very different disease, and it was a very different world, you know. So 2 weeks later, she had gone without me for her results, and I had the notion to bring my sponsor with me because that's what I was told in Alcoholics Anonymous. We don't do anything alone. And I brought my sponsor with me. And lo and behold, they gave me the HIV diagnosis that I was HIV positive, and that was it. Good luck. Goodbye. You know, and my sponsor and I sat on the subway platform, and she said, what do you want to do? And I said, you see that seedy little bar across the street on the corner? I want a drink. And she's like, Adrienne, that's not an option. And I mean, 1991, it was a death sentence. You were dead. You were going to die. My first thought was, I'll never have children. Who's going to love me? I'm going to be dead. It's just not going to matter anyway, you know, and all of that. Started going back to meetings, didn't talk about it. It was like a big secret of shame thing back then. There was a lot of stigma. My family, I told my dad, and when he told my stepmom, her reaction was, she's not allowed in the house. I don't want to expose her to me or my children. So she's not going to be allowed home for Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, any of that stuff. So I was not allowed at home. That was a very, 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 very dark time in my life, but I stayed sober. I kept going to meetings. I kept participating in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've always been planted in the herd, and I really believe that you need to be planted in the herd of this thing if you want to stay sober. And long story long, in 94, I started to not feel well. 9 of my friends died that year. I was really involved with the gay community and in support groups and things, and I was given a full-blown AIDS diagnosis, and I was given 2 years to live. And I had every single opportunistic infection somebody with AIDS has. I couldn't walk. I had severe peripheral neuropathy to my legs. I couldn't walk across my apartment, which was 2 rooms. I had to give myself injections every day of red blood cells and white blood cells to keep myself alive. I had a catheter in my chest. I had to be fed intravenously for 16 hours a day, which was a feeding tube into my chest, which every night my cat would chew through. Therefore, the blood would pump out, and I would wake up in a pool of blood every night. Don't worry, it gets better. And around that same time, I started to lose my vision in my right eye, and the drug that I needed to save my vision wasn't FDA approved. So I basically lost all my vision in my right eye. had multiple surgeries, and therefore I see nothing from here over. So I always turn now and say hi to this side of the room because, hi, I don't see you guys. So it's kind of like I'm only speaking to this many people, which is actually good for me because it makes me less nervous. But needless to say, I had to do a 4-step on the FDA many years later because the drug I needed wasn't FDA approved, but the thing is like only God knows, if that drug would have even saved me. And I had a makeup artist friend who I was in the fashion industry for many years, and he lost his vision in both eyes, and he lived, So my glass is half full today, my glass is really half full today. It was a gnarly, dark time. Some of you probably remember from LA and San Francisco and New York the way it was. I was dying, but I was going to meetings, and it was really important for me that I was sober. And I had to take a lot of different medications at that time, and I was always calling my sponsor and saying, am I still sober? Am I still sober? Are you taking your medication as prescribed? Yes. Then you're still sober. And it was very important to me, my sobriety, because it was the only thing that I felt that I had to hold on to, Anyway, long story short now, I ended up getting better. Drugs I needed came out in 96, and divine intervention and protease inhibitors came out, and I have been completely asymptomatic and fine since 1996. When I was sick... When I was sick and dying, I don't know if you guys are familiar with T cells, but I had 4, and I named them because I had to have a sense of humor about it, But now I have 950, like a healthy person. It's like I have a huge God in my life, and I know He has a purpose for my life today, and I know that that's part of it is doing these public speaking engagements that I've been asked to do so frequently lately. I had so much shame about being diagnosed with this disease, and it was like I never wanted to be defined by my alcoholism, and I never wanted to be defined, as being the white girl with HIV and, the heterosexual white girl with HIV and the token this and the token that. And it's like I have to just embrace all of this now. This is what God put in my life, and this is my purpose, and if I can help one person today stay sober, I was told when I came in that no matter what happens, a lot of yets are going to happen for you in your life and in your sobriety. And if you stay sober long enough, life happens. People die, you get in relationships, people leave, you get in wrecks, this happens, that happens, your parents die, this happens. And I was told no matter what happens, nothing is bad enough for you to pick up that drink over. And that there is somebody in the room at this very moment that has gone through exactly what you're going through right now. That somehow miraculously God will put the two of you together and you will find each other, and they will show you their sober reference in staying through that experience and not picking up a drink. I will tell you that I've seen many people die of this disease of alcoholism. A friend of mine just passed away last weekend. His name was Cliff, and he was sober for many years in Hollywood AA. And, he went out a few years ago, and this guy helped hundreds of alcoholics, and he was laying dead for 4 days before they found him last weekend, and he's just one, there's 2 that died last month, back in New York, that were sober and had gone out. And I've seen a lot being sober as many years as I am. I know that there's nothing out there for me, but my disease tells me different. My disease tells me that it's okay. You can act out in this area of your life because it's not going to lead you back to a drink. It's just compulsive eating or compulsive spending or compulsive social media or whatever it is, I'm compulsive, I'm compulsive. I cannot have one of anything. Somebody says, do you want a piece of candy? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I can't have one piece of candy. It's like I need to fill that hole. And what I'm working on and have been working on, I have to wrap it up, is shedding those layers and being comfortable in my skin and not filling that hole with those things. 2 minutes. Filling the hole with prayer, meditation. When I meditate, it's like my life changes. It's amazing. And when I don't meditate, I become more into my ism, I would say. Sponsoring girls, having commitments, being of service, helping others, getting out of myself, self. You know, I try to not wake up in the morning and say, okay, God, what can I get today? Because that's my logic. What can I get from this world today? What am I going to get? It's all about me. What's this day going to bring me? Like, that's where I will immediately go. And instead, shift my perception and say, what can I give? How can I be of service? What can I give to the world? And let me tell you, this alcoholic does not wake up like that every day. You know, this alcoholic has to work full time at, you know, keeping a conscious contact with my spiritual guide and, you know, being free of self, bondage of self, you know, based on the spiritual, what is it? I can't quote the big book very well, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I'm very grateful, you know, I'm very, very, very grateful that I have the chance to stand here today, you know, that I get to be here. I will tell you that really quickly that a few years ago, my life completely changed dramatically. I was single for many, many years, and I just started saying yes. I just started saying yes to short guys and tall guys and fat guys and small guys and big guys and bald guys and different race guys, and, you know, I just started saying yes, and guess what? God gave me my husband, you know, and he's my joy, and he's sober, and we have this amazing life, and we, you know, we just have this amazing life today, you know, and I'm very, very, very blessed. I'm very, very blessed that I get to be here and that I get to do this, and that I get one day again to have a daily reprieve based on my spiritual condition. There you are. It came to me. Anyway, my time's up. So thanks so much for having me. Thank you. Okay.
Talk about your forgiveness to the man that you contracted the AIDS
Okay.
from.
So his question or statement is, talk about my forgiveness about the man that I contracted the disease from. He died a few years after I found out, and we became close buddies and started going to HIV support groups together, and I watched him go through a horrific battle with the disease, and he ended up passing away probably in about 97 or 98. Yeah. Hi.
So, how long do you meditate for, generally, when you meditate? What period of time?
How long do I meditate for? That's the question. How long do I meditate for? A few years ago, I took a class to learn this certain type of meditation. It's called Vedic, and it's 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon. But lately, it's been 10 minutes in the morning, and that's about it. I was told that if you do something for 3 weeks, you form a habit, and then you start to crave it. And when I first took the class and first started doing it, I was doing it for 6 months, twice a day, and my life was completely amazing. And now life gets busy and stuff, so it's been, you know, a struggle. But I tried to do 20 minutes in the morning. Hi. So her question is, what does a worker among workers mean to me in AA? That is a very, very hard lesson for me to learn because as a result of my illness, I was on disability for many, many years and didn't work. So I had to learn how to be a worker among workers in AA. And when I got well, I started freelancing and taking jobs and just saying yes to whatever was presented in front of me and showing up on time and not leaving early and that kind of thing. And it's funny, 2 years ago, I took a full-time job doing something I would have never done. And I don't want to say I hated it because I learned a lot from it, but it was a struggle driving over the hill every day for me to go to that job. But it was a great experience, and I'm glad that I did it. So, hi. Rule 62. I don't even... don't take yourself so seriously. That's right. It's so funny. I was at a convention recently, and they had a workshop on Rule 62. I laugh all the time. I think humor, you have to have a sense of humor about it. And I mean, LA is a really cool town, and New York's a really cool town. And like, I just kind of laugh about it because I think it came with age too. I don't care anymore so much. And in 100 years, we're all going to be dead. None of this is going to matter. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so have a sense of humor about it and laugh about it. You know, it's like, try to be in the solution about it and not the problem. And like, this too shall pass, you know? So yeah, thanks. Good question. Hi. That's a great question. I didn't get to that. She asked if I'd be willing to talk about what happened with my relationship with my dad and my stepmother. So my stepmother wouldn't let me in the house for many years until finally it was a wedge between my dad and I. And my dad and I are very, very close. Talk to him every day, and it was awful. And I did some work with a sponsor, and I went to Al-Anon for a number of years to get some help with it. And I finally called her up one day, and I said, you know, I've made a decision. You can tell whoever you want to tell. I really don't care anymore. I just want my dad to be okay, and I want our family unit to be back on track. And we sat down for lunch, and she proceeded to tell me how I ruined her life, how I ruined this about her marriage, how I ruined that. And I just sat there and did restraint of pen and tongue and paused and listened to what she had to say. And I did a lot of writing work on her, a lot of 4 steps on her. And eventually I made an amends to her. About 6 years ago, she was diagnosed with cancer, and there's 25 of us in our immediate family with all my step-siblings and everything, and she decided to take the whole family on a cruise to the Caribbean, and we all went on the cruise, and 2 months later, the 6 of us children were in the hospital bed room with her when she took her last breath, and I had made my peace with her, you know, and that's a direct result of practicing these steps and working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, that her and I were okay when she passed, you know, and it was a relief for my dad and my family too, you know. So last question. Hi. What did I name my T cells? Eeny, meeny, miny, and mo. Oh, I have one more question he's telling me. Hi. So his question is, were my birth parents on my resentment list, and do I have any contact with them? My birth father died of alcoholism in the 80s. I met my birth mother in 2001, and we stayed in touch a little bit, but it wasn't... I'm very close with my dad and my family, so it was a little challenging for me. And the last time I spoke to her was probably 2 years ago, and they weren't on any resentment list for me. I didn't feel resentment towards them, but funny you bring it up because I've been thinking lately that I really want to get back in touch with her again. So thank you. That's it.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.